From Time Warner Cable Field at Fox City Stadium here in Grand Chute, Wisconsin, it's the D3Baseball.com wrap-up show, now with more lighting. Day 4 from the Division III World Series. I'm Pat Coleman along with Jim Dixon, and we only eliminated one team today, Wisconsin-Stevens Point, the team with all the fans. They're the ones going home. At least it's a short trip for them, and we have 3 teams coming back tomorrow on Tuesday as Ithaca will face off against Southern Maine at 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern time to decide who gets the right to challenge Linfield for the national championship in a game that is scheduled to start at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. That is, Jim, if we get either game in at all because of the weather.
It is looking pretty cloudy out there, but I have my fingers crossed, and I know we're going to see a national champion tomorrow.
What we did see, all right. He knows we're going to see a national champion tomorrow. I'm feeling better already. Wisconsin-Stevens Point was the team eliminated here this afternoon. They fell to Southern Maine by the score of 8-1. It seems like this is a recurring theme for us, Jim, on this wrap-up show, that after that second day debacle where Logan Carmen, because of his injury, was only able to get 2 batters out, they turned it into a staff day. Everybody and his uncle and his half-brother pitched. That Southern Maine really needed a solid outing or great outing from a starting pitcher in order to solidify their chances of remaining in this tournament. And today, Tyler Levitt certainly did that.
He certainly did. And you got to be impressed about the freshman that Ed Flattery has been able to bring to Appleton because between the 2 starts, the 2 freshmen, I've been very impressed.
Levitt this afternoon, 9 innings pitched, went the complete game, gave up 4 hits, 1 run, no earned runs, struck out 2, walked 3. He faced just 5 batters over the minimum in defeating Stevens Point 8-1. Southern Maine and Stevens Point scoreless through 3. Stevens Point puts a single run on the board in the 4th inning, and then Southern Maine responds with a 5 spot in the bottom half.
That really was the killer. You talked to the coaching staff at Stevens Point, and all year they've been trying to avoid a crooked number, and 5 was one of the crookedest numbers that they could see today, and they just weren't able to sit there and come back upon that.
As a freshman starter for Stevens Point as well, Max Frederick got the call. He went 3 2/3, gave up 5 hits, 5 runs, all of them earned. Brad Strike gave up another couple of runs in relief, and Luke Watson came in and closed the door for the final 3 innings, but if we're talking about closing the door, the horse was already out of the barn, and I don't think I mixed too many metaphors in there, but it was already well established by that point. Southern Maine, the 1991 and 1997 Division III baseball national champs, remains in the field, and they have a chance to play for the national championship on a Tuesday. We mentioned Tyler Levitt got the win. He improved to 5-0. Frederick, with the loss, falls to 3-4. Of course, then our second game this afternoon is the one that's commonly referred to as the throwaway game. Linfield didn't have to win this in order to play for the championship on Tuesday. Ithaca, of course, needed to win this afternoon in order to remain alive, and Ithaca did so. I want to say one thing. Ithaca wins the game 6-4. Linfield threw out 3 guys who I think collectively had thrown about 6 innings all year, and frankly, nearly beat Ithaca in the process.
You got to think that Linfield's looking pretty good about their chances because they're coming back with the D3Baseball.com all pitcher of the year, and it was just really amazing that they were able to sit there and play as close as they did.
Linfield jumped on top early. They scored 2 runs in the bottom of the first. They reach on an error. A couple of those runs over the course of the day were unearned. They manufactured some things, put a couple of runs together in the first. Ithaca answered right away, though. You come right back out with a guy who hadn't hit a home run all year, and Matt Connolly goes deep to cut that deficit in half right away.
That really was a big run because when your opponent scored, they want to come back and have a shutout inning. They weren't able to do that. So Ithaca was able to sit there and build some momentum.
Ithaca gives up a run in the bottom of the 4th, so Linfield goes up 3-1, and then Ithaca comes back and throws a 3 spot up in the 5th inning. The guy who got the start for Linfield, Spencer Metchett, pitched in 2 games all season, hadn't thrown in a game since April 13th. He got the start. He looked pretty good for about 4 innings, and then things kind of fell apart in the 5th. Metch ends up going 4 2/3 innings, gives up 7 hits, 4 runs, all of them earned. In picking up the loss, his first decision of the season, they bring out a guy, Cody Arott, who had thrown, practically less than that. He had only had a handful of appearances all season, and then Cody Walker finishes it off with 3 shutout innings to finish it off. I mean, Linfield got through the day, doing what a lot of teams in this situation have done in the throwaway game over the past 5 years, basically pitching nobody who is going to be part of their final day rotation or their pitching plans to end the season.
It's really nice to get through this game without having any injuries, and certainly they're going to have a very rested pitching staff when it comes tomorrow. We talked to Scott Brocious, the head coach at Linfield, and he said, I'm going to win every single game. But, if I was a betting man, this was a game that he wasn't really sorry that he lost.
Right. I mean, just looking at from the standpoint of, the pitcher he threw out there, obviously you knew that this was a game that they knew they could afford to lose, and frankly, as I said, they almost won the darn thing to begin with. Tim LaCastro, one of the big offensive stars for Ithaca, again, 2 for 2, 2 runs scored, walked 3 times, and also Colby G had another good game, 1 for 5 with a pair of RBIs. Christian Brown with a triple in his 2 for 5 afternoon, and Pat Lemo coming back after getting knocked around a little bit in the opener against Linfield, comes back, faces the Wildcats again. This time he goes 7 innings. Gives up 4 runs, but just 1 of them earned. Walks 2, strikes out 1. He talked in the post-game news conference, Jim, about today being a day he wanted to pitch to contact. And on the last day of the season, or the second to last day of the season, you talk about pitching to contact. He's a guy who's saving some pitches for tomorrow, I would assume.
He maybe not. You never know. He came back after 2 days rest, and I'm not sure if the Ithaca head coach is going to bring him back. But the one nice thing about Lemo is he sat there and he saw what he did wrong in the first game. He came back and corrected. In the first game, he was leaving his pitches up, and he'd sit there and he kept them down all game. So that really was the key to his having a pitching win.
Lemo's win improves him to 12-2, ties the school record for wins for the Bombers. Jimmy Wagner comes out of the bullpen, pitches 2 innings in the 8th and 9th for his 7th save of the season. Remember, he's a guy who just took over the closer role at the final weekend of the regular season, and he has now gone 12 2/3 innings in relief and has allowed just 1 earned run. I wanted to talk about the bottom of the 8th for Linfield, because Linfield threatened. They had a chance to tie the game. They were trailing 5-4 at the time. Started off, Wagner, first batter he faces, hits him with the pitch. Sacrifice moves him over, and then a pass ball moves him to third. And then with the runner on third and 1 out, Linfield unable to bring him around to score with a kind of a fluky play. Grounder back through the middle that Wagner dives, deflects, rolls off towards the first base side. Second baseman coming over to cover the bag, picks up the ball, and the batter is still kind of running down the first baseline. Second baseman is, looking at home, looking the runner on third back to make sure he's not going home, and then nearly doesn't tag the runner.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they kept the runner on third base.
And Scott Brocious was surprised too.
Yeah, Scott Brocious was aggressive all day. He was sending runners. They were having close plays at the plate. And so when they tagged the guy at first base, I'm going, oh, wait. And I looked at home, and there was nothing there. The guy was still standing at third. So that was an opportunity missed. That would have tied the game.
I would suspect these are the pitching matchups we're looking at tomorrow, at least for Southern Maine. They have the opportunity to bring back Shyler Skates on a full slate of rest. He threw 5 innings. And on Friday in the tournament opener, Andrew Richards, had the day off because Tyler Levitt threw a complete game. So, for a guy who's accustomed to throwing every day, I figure Richards is going to be plenty ready out of the bullpen. And if Southern Maine needs a second starter, they get into the second game. Maybe he starts the second game as well. For Linfield, we talked about Chris Hadelin being available. You figure he's going to be the guy to start the game for them. On the Ithaca side, Pat Lemo started today. Jake Pendergast, who started the second day of the tournament, would be able to start on a reasonable amount of rest anyway.
He's going to have the same amount of rest that Pat Lemo did.
Yep.
And one would think that with the title line, Ithaca is going to need 2 pitchers, so they're either going to need Pendergast in the first game or the second game.
Or both, who knows. So that wraps up our D3Baseball.com wrap-up for Day 4 from the Division III World Series. As we mentioned, weather may be an issue for Tuesday's games. Keep an eye on us. We will have, our first announcement will probably be on Twitter before you hear it anywhere else. So if you're not following D3 Baseball on Twitter, we definitely recommend you do so. Become a fan of us on Facebook. And, of course, as always, follow all of our coverage from the Division III Baseball Championships on our website, www.d3baseball.com. For Jim Dixon and for our producer, Ryan Coleman, I'm Pat Coleman, signing off from Grand Chute, Wisconsin.